You know that moment when one tiny thing happens and your whole inner world reacts like it just got attacked? A tone in someone's voice, a message left unread, a comment that wasn't even that deep, and suddenly your body is hot, your mind is loud, and your day is basically held hostage. What's weird is how fast it happens. You don't sit down and decide, all right, time to spiral for the next 3 hours. It just starts, like someone flipped a switch inside you. And because it feels so immediate, it looks like the outside world did it, like the event reached in and grabbed your emotions by the throat. But most of the time, the event didn't do that. Your mind did something in the background, quietly, automatically, almost invisibly. It took a stimulus and turned it into meaning. Then your nervous system treated that meaning like a threat. That's the part that changes everything once you finally notice it. Because there's always a gap, small but real. Something happens. Then your interpretation shows up. Then the feeling arrives. We usually skip the middle step because it's so fast it feels like one single thing, like the event and the emotion are glued together. But they're not. Your brain is gluing them together. And you've seen this before in other people. 2 people get the same email. One person reads it and thinks, okay, annoying, whatever. The other person reads it and thinks, they hate me. I'm in trouble. This is bad. Same email, different inner worlds. That difference isn't personality, it's meaning. The brain is basically a meaning machine. It's constantly asking, what does this mean for me? And it answers fast, sometimes too fast. That's why triggers feel personal, because the meaning your mind assigns often lands right on your sense of self. And this is where people get stuck. They think they're fighting the outside world. They think they're battling rude people, unfair situations, disrespectful tone, bad timing, bad luck. Meanwhile, the real fight is happening internally, between the stimulus and the story. Once you start catching the story, control starts coming back. Not all at once, not like a superhero moment. More like you finally find the steering wheel again. Now here's the next layer that makes this whole thing feel so intense. It's usually not the event that hurts you, it's what the event touches in your identity. You can test this easily. Someone says something sharp to you, and it hits hard. You replay it. You feel it in your chest. Then later, someone else says something sharp, almost the same words, and you barely care. Why? Because one of them touched a sensitive spot in how you see yourself. A fragile self-image is like a bruise you don't know you have until someone bumps it. The bump doesn't create the bruise, it reveals it. Criticism lands when it fits the fear you already carry. Dismissal hurts when it matches an insecurity you don't want to admit. A neutral comment can feel brutal if it lines up with a story you've been quietly telling yourself for years. So the ego does what the ego does. It defends, not always with arrogance, sometimes with over-explaining, sometimes with anger, sometimes with collapsing, sometimes with that weird internal courtroom where you rehearse arguments you'll never say out loud. That's the ego trying to protect a constructed version of you, the version that needs to be seen a certain way to feel safe. And here's the trap. The more you need your identity to be protected, the more reactive you become. Because now life isn't just life, it's a constant threat to your image. Every look, every tone, every pause becomes a potential insult, a potential rejection, a potential humiliation. That's exhausting. The freedom isn't in getting everyone to treat you perfectly. It's in loosening how tightly you grip the version of yourself that needs constant defense. When identity softens, impact weakens. You still hear things. You still feel things. You still care. You just don't get knocked over as easily. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, I get it, but my body reacts before I can do anything, you're not imagining that. Your nervous system moves first. Your logic is late to the party. You feel the spike, then you explain the spike. You tense up, Then you find a reason why you're tense. Your system goes into threat mode, and your mind starts gathering evidence to justify it. That's why reactivity feels so convincing. It has a physical signature: tight chest, jaw clenched, heat in the face, that restless feeling like you need to do something right now. Those are old scripts. They're not random, they're learned. Some people learned early that conflict meant danger. Some learned that criticism meant rejection. Some learned that being misunderstood meant shame. And your nervous system, being loyal, kept the program. It would rather overreact than miss a threat. So when something even slightly resembles that old shape, the body hits the alarm. And here's where most people lose their power. They mistake the alarm for truth. They assume, if I feel this, it must mean something is actually wrong. So they follow the script. They act it out. They perform the emotion. Text back instantly. Defend yourself. Over-explain. Get cold. Get loud. Disappear. Replay it for hours. You've done it. Everyone has. The shift starts when you do something that feels almost unfairly simple. You observe the script while it's running. Not later, not in the shower, not the next day. In the moment. You catch the first physical signal and you name it, quietly, internally. My system is activated. That line does something important. It separates you from the reaction. It reminds you this is a body state, not a prophecy. Then you watch the mind try to fill in meaning, and you label the meaning like a headline. Disrespect story, rejection story, control story, not enough story. You don't wrestle with it. Wrestling keeps it alive. You just see it. That's the beginning of emotional authority. Because you're no longer fused with the script. You're watching it. And when you're watching it, you have a choice. Maybe a small choice. Maybe only a 2% choice. But 2% is still a different life than 0. This is where the pause becomes real. Not a meditation retreat pause. A human pause. 2 seconds where you don't respond from the spike. 2 seconds where you feel your feet, or your breath, or the weight of your body in the chair. Something physical, something present, something that doesn't need interpretation. Because the mind can argue forever, the body brings you back to now. And those 2 seconds are more powerful than people think. A lot of regret is just a reaction that happened too quickly. A lot of damage is just a nervous system writing checks your future self has to cash. So the pause doesn't make you weak, it makes you accurate. Now this is where people misunderstand detachment, and it's important. Detachment isn't becoming numb. It isn't pretending you don't care. It isn't turning into some cold person who doesn't feel anything. Real detachment is being able to feel without being dragged. It's caring without collapsing. It's letting someone be disappointed with you without turning it into an emergency. It's hearing criticism without immediately turning it into identity. It's letting a moment be awkward without needing to fix it to feel safe. Detachment is psychological insulation. The weather can exist. It just doesn't have to live inside your house. And when you start practicing that, something sneaky happens. You stop taking so much personally. Not because you become arrogant, because you finally see how much of what's thrown at you isn't even about you. People project constantly. They leak their stress, their insecurity, their shame, their impatience. They hand you their internal mess and wait to see if you'll pick it up and carry it. Most suffering is just you carrying things that were never yours. And the relief when you stop doing that is real. It's physical, like your shoulders drop, like your brain gets quieter. Neutrality starts to feel like strength, not the dead kind, the clean kind. But here's the honest part. The first time you try to live this way, it can feel unnatural, because reactivity has a certain identity attached to it. It feels like me. It feels like how I survive. It feels like how I protect myself. So when you pause, part of you might panic and think you're losing something. You're not. You're just not feeding the old script. And the script will complain at first, loudly. It will tell you you're being weak. It will tell you you're letting people win. It will tell you you're going to be disrespected if you don't react. That's the ego talking. That's the nervous system trying to keep the familiar world in place. Which is exactly why the next part matters, because there's a point where control shifts in a way you can actually feel. And once you feel it, it becomes harder to go back. And that shift usually shows up in a very specific moment. It's not when life is calm. It's when something hits you and you feel the familiar surge, the heat, the urge to respond, the internal pressure to do something right now. Yet you don't move the way you used to. You notice the impulse, and you don't hand it the microphone. That's when control changes hands. Because the old way is basically this. Something happens outside you, your system spikes, your mind builds meaning, and then you act as if the meaning is a fact. You defend, you explain, you attack, you retreat, you overthink, you chase relief, and the whole time it feels like you had no choice. Like the reaction was you. But once you start seeing the sequence, you realize there was always a choice hiding inside it. Small, sometimes tiny, but real. You just didn't have access to it when you refused with the story. And this is where people misunderstand what permission really means. When someone says, "Nothing can affect you without permission," it can sound like a motivational quote, like something you put on a wall and forget. But the real meaning is a lot more practical and honestly, a little more ruthless. It means the event is one thing and your inner agreement is another. The event can still be annoying, it can still be unfair, it can still be disrespectful. Nobody is pretending life is gentle. The difference is what happens inside you after the event. That part is where permission lives. Permission is what you give when you decide the story is true. Permission is what you give when you replay it, feed it, build it into identity, let it set the tone for your entire day. Most people don't give permission as a conscious decision. They give it as a habit. That's why awareness matters. Awareness is what turns an unconscious habit into something you can finally choose. And if you're thinking, okay, but I still feel it, good. Feeling it isn't the problem. The problem is obeying it. This is why detachment isn't indifference. You're not trying to shut off emotion. You're trying to keep emotion from driving. Caring without collapsing is the whole skill. You can feel anger and not become reckless. You can feel hurt and not turn it into a courtroom. You can feel disappointment and not treat it like proof that you're unlovable. This is what emotional mastery looks like in real life. It's not a spiritual glow. It's not being calm in a way that makes you look superior. It's being human, getting activated, and still having enough space to choose what you do next. And that space is created the same way every time. You stop merging with the first interpretation. Because your mind's first interpretation is usually designed for speed, not truth. It's designed to protect you. It's designed to predict. It's designed to keep your identity intact. So it often reaches for the most dramatic, familiar explanation, the one that matches old pain, the one that justifies the surge in your body. That's why criticism hits harder when it touches something fragile in you. Not because you're weak, because the identity is tight there. It's protecting something. If your self-image depends on being respected, every slight becomes a threat. If your self-image depends on being needed, every distance feels like abandonment. If your self-image depends on being right, every disagreement feels like humiliation. The ego can turn normal life into a constant identity emergency. And then you end up living in defense mode, even on good days. So the goal isn't to kill the ego. That's not realistic. The goal is to loosen the grip, to stop making your identity so brittle that reality breaks it every afternoon. When identity softens, you start noticing something almost funny. A lot of what you used to take personally was never personal. People will hand you their stress with both hands. They'll project their insecurity onto you. They'll dump their mood into a room and act like it's your responsibility to clean it up. They'll speak from their wounds and call it honesty. And if you internalize all of that, you become a collector of other people's weather. You spend your life getting soaked by storms that weren't even meant for you. This is why personalization keeps people emotionally trapped. If everything is about you, you're never free. Every look matters. Every tone matters. Every delay matters. You're constantly reading signs, interpreting shadows, building meaning from half a sentence. It's exhausting because it turns life into surveillance. Detachment gives you something back, the relief of not having to make everything mean something about your worth. Not the relief of being numb, the relief of being accurate. And accuracy changes your behavior in quiet ways. You stop chasing closure from people who can't give it. You stop trying to control how you're perceived in every room. You stop drafting speeches in your head to prove you're not wrong. You start saving your energy like it's not unlimited, because it's not. Now this is where the control conversation gets real. Most people say they want control. What they mean is they want people to stop triggering them. They want the world to behave in a way that keeps their nervous system comfortable. They want external stability so they can finally feel internally stable. That's backwards. Trying to control people is a trap because it puts your peace in their hands. And people are inconsistent, even the good ones, especially the stressed ones. The only control that actually holds is response control. Not in a rigid way, not in a suppressive way, in a simple, practical way, choosing what you do next. If you want to see how powerful that is, notice what happens the first time you don't react on schedule. Someone expects you to explode, and you don't. Someone expects you to defend yourself, and you don't. Someone expects you to spiral, and you don't. It changes the entire dynamic because you're no longer predictable. Reactive people are predictable. Predictable people are easy to manipulate. Marketing understands this. Toxic people understand this. Even ordinary people, without meaning to, understand this. They learn which buttons work on you. When you stop being button-operated, you become harder to control without becoming cold. You become steady. And steadiness does something interesting. It gives you leverage without aggression. It gives you dignity without performance. It gives you the ability to say less and mean more. Now, in the moment, how do you actually do it? Not as a philosophy, as a move. When the trigger hits, try to catch it in 3 layers, quickly, without overthinking. First, what happened? Just the raw event. Second, what your mind instantly called it. Third, what your body did. That's it. And the most important part is that second layer, because that's where you usually disappear. That's where you merge. That's where you get hypnotized. So instead of merging, you label the meaning and let it sit there like a thought. Then you do something your nervous system doesn't expect. You pause without punishing. A slower exhale. One breath that tells your body, we're not sprinting right now. Feel your feet, or your hands, or the chair under you. Let your eyes take in the room like you're reminding yourself you're here. It sounds almost too small to matter until you realize how many disasters were created by speed. Speed is what makes a trigger become a spiral. Speed is what makes an assumption become a fight. Speed is what makes a mood become a personality. The pause isn't about becoming calm instantly. It's about not letting a surge decide your next action. And yes, sometimes the surge is strong. Sometimes you will still react. That's human. The win is catching it sooner next time. The win is shortening the duration. The win is reducing the replay. Because the replay is where most suffering lives. One moment happens, then you keep it alive for hours. You play it back, edit it, add dialogue, add meaning, add future predictions. The event becomes a whole inner universe, and you live inside that universe like it's real. This is where you take permission back in the simplest way. You stop feeding the replay. Not by forcing your mind to shut up, by choosing where your attention goes next. Attention is the fuel. Wherever your attention sits, your reality thickens. If you keep feeding the trigger, it grows. If you return attention to what's present, the trigger returns to its actual size. Not erased, just resized. And after a while, the most surprising thing happens. You start feeling less afraid of feeling, because you've proven to yourself that emotion can rise without owning you, that discomfort can exist without becoming a disaster, that a thought can pass through without becoming a command. That's the calm that follows ego detachment. Not a calm that denies life, a calm that stops negotiating your worth with every event. So the final click isn't, "Nothing ever bothers me again." The click is subtler. It's the moment you realize the outside world can still be messy, yet your inner world belongs to you. You can still care, yet you don't have to collapse. You can still feel, yet you don't have to perform the script. And once you experience that even once, really experience it, in the middle of a real trigger, you don't need a perfect life to feel powerful. You just need that space. That space where something happens, and you don't automatically become it.